Hello, students. Today we will start with the chapter Elementary Theory of Demand. Let us see what is demand. Demand in economics means a desire to possess a good supported by willingness and ability to pay for it. Now, in ordinary sense, the term desire, want, and demand have the same meaning and therefore are used interchangeably. But in economics, these terms have different meaning. Desire means a mere wish to have a commodity. Want is an effective desire. That is, a desire will be effective when we have the means to buy it and also are ready to spend on it. Thus, a desire will become want if it is backed by the ability to pay and readiness to spend. Want, therefore, consists of the following three elements. They are desire for a commodity, means to buy, and readiness to spend. If you have a desire to buy a certain commodity, say a tractor, but do not have the adequate means to pay for it, it will simply be a wish, a desire, or a want, and not demand. Let's see what are the features of demand. First is demand always means effective demand. Desire for a commodity will become demand only when it is backed by purchasing power and willingness to spend. Next, demand is always at a certain price. Demand makes no sense unless it is stated in terms of price. For example, you may be willing to buy a kurti only if it is available at rupees 500 each. You may not buy it at all if its price is rupees 600. Moreover, demand is different at different prices. You may purchase two kurtis if they are available at rupees 300 each. Therefore, demand is always expressed in relation to a particular price. And number 3 is demand is a flow concept. As it is expressed per unit of time, say per day, per week, per month, etc. For instance, at a ticket price of rupees 200, you may be willing to visit cinema only once a month. But if the ticket price comes down to rupees 100, you may be willing to go to cinema 3 times a month. Now let us see what is individual demand and market demand. As the name suggests, individual demand means the quantity of a commodity that an individual household is willing to buy at a particular price during a specific period. For example, Raj is willing to purchase 3 liters of milk at a price of rupees 40 per liter every day. It is individual demand. Market demand, on the other hand, refers to the total quantity of a commodity that all the consumers or the household are willing to buy in the market at a particular price during a specific period. For example, Raj, Vishal, and Priya in the market, whose individual demand at a price of rupees 40 per kg are 3 liters, 2 liters, and 1 liters of milk per day, respectively. Then the market demand will be 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6 liters. Thus, Market demand is the sum total of demand made by all individual or consumers in the market. Now let's discuss what are factors affecting demand. Of all the factors affecting demand, price is the most important factors. Other things being equal, demand for an commodity increases when its price fall and decreases when price rises. For example, a consumer's demand for mango is just 1 kg when it is priced at rupees 50 per kg and rises to 2 kg when its price fall to rupees 30 per kg. It is not only the existing price, that is the price prevailing in the market, but expected changes in it also affect demand. For example, if people fear that there will be shortage of commodity and hence rise in their prices in future, they may now increase their demand for the commodities. Other factors are price of related goods. Now, the demand for a commodity depends not only on its own price but also on the price of related goods. If a change in the price of one good affects the demand for another, it is called cross demand. We would say that these two goods are related. Now, related goods may be in the form of substitute and complementary. What are substitute goods? When two goods are substitute, if one can be used in place of the other, they are also called competitive goods because they compete with one another for demand in the market. For example, tea and coffee. What are complementary goods? Complementary goods are those goods which are used together to satisfy a particular want, like tea and sugar, bread, butter, etc. There is an inverse relation between the price of a complementary good and demand for the given good. Next effect or factor is income of the consumer. Another important factor affecting demand is consumers' income. Other things being equal, generally there is a direct relationship between the consumer's income and the demand for a commodity. However, the effect of change in income on consumer demand depends upon the nature of the commodity as well. Like in case of normal goods, the demand for which increases with the increases in the income of the consumer. For example, a consumer purchases 2 liters of milk daily when his income increases and purchases 3 liters of milk when his income rises from his regular income. Inferior goods. Inferior goods are those goods the demand for which falls as the income of the consumer increases. Now, there are some other factors which affect the demand as well. They are taste and preference. The amount demanded of a commodity also depends on consumer taste and preferences. When we begin to like certain commodities, their demand will increase, and reverse will happen if we start disliking them. Now we will discuss the determinants of market demand. What are they? Number one is population. Population increase in population increases the demand and vice versa. Market demand for so many commodities has increased in India due to this factor. Next is season and weather. The season and weather condition also have an effect on consumer demand. For example, demand for woolen goods goes up during winter, and fans, coolers, etc. are demanded more during summer. Next is government policy. Government policy of a country can also affect the demand for a particular commodity or commodities. It may reduce the demand for a commodity by imposing tax on it or increasing the demand by lowering its price through subsidies. Next is state of business. The prevailing business condition in a country also affect the level of demand. For example, during boom period, market demand will increase. On the other hand, the level of demand goes down during the period of depression. And the last one is distribution of income. If there are more poor people, the demand for necessities of life will be more. Increase in the percentage of rich people will increase the demand for the luxury goods. Now let's discuss demand and its types. First is joint demand. What do you mean by that? When a commodity is jointly demanded with some other commodity, we call it joint demand. Like for example, if you buy a car, you would need petrol. So, joint demand is also called complementary demand. Next is composite demand. The demand for a commodity which can be put to several uses is called a composite demand. For example, coal can be used for heating, cooking, and operating railway engines as well. Next is direct demand. What do you mean by that? The demand for such commodity which are directly demanded by the consumer for the satisfaction of his want is known as direct demand, such as demand for food, cloth, housing, etc. Such demand is known as direct demand because they directly satisfy human want. Next is derived demand. If a thing is needed for producing some other goods, which we actually need, is called derived demand. For example, the demand for workers in a factory is a derived demand because this worker will be helpful in the production of goods in the factory. And the last one is competitive demand. When two commodities are close substitute of each other, an increase in the quantity demanded of one of them will reduce the demand for the other. For example, An increased demand for coffee might reduce the demand for tea. Similarly, a change in the demand for fish might affect the demand for meat. That, that's it for now. Thank you.